Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this special transmission where we're covering the 12th elections of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan as they happen today. Today is the polling day, and many of you have already gone to vote, like myself. If you can see that, I have voted, and so have many others, and there are others who are voting as we speak all across Pakistan in different polling stations. I hope all of you did manage to message 8300 before today to get your exact constituency and your polling station. Of course, there is a lot of positive sentiment and enthusiasm as far as those voters who are going to vote for their respective candidates, irrespective of which political party they belong to. The fact is that we need to all go and register our votes, register our, this is not only a responsibility, but it's something that we are supposed to do. This is something that we have inherited over the generations because of the fact that we are Pakistani and we are working in a country, and we are in a country that needs as much of our support as possible for guiding us and for guiding it to the next a batch of leaders that are going to govern the country for the next 5 years. Now, this is what is happening today as we speak. As per the reports, the first results will maybe start coming around 6 o'clock. And the polling, of course, time is between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So at 5 p.m. everything is going to stop, and then the counting will begin. As per as the spokesperson Election Commission of Pakistan, who I talked to yesterday, she said that the first results are expected between 5:30 and 6 p.m. So let's see if that actually happens today. Nevertheless, there was a huge survey by Ipsos yesterday as well, where 75% of people said that they were enthusiastic about the polls, and there were also just a small percentage that was saying that they were not going to vote today. This said, it's very important to vote. There is a huge population of the youth that is also part of the voters this time, those who have attained the age above 18 and those who are eligible to vote now. Around 7.5 million, some estimates say around 20 million, but more or less it's 7.5 million youth who are now eligible to vote. Then there are the women, and the percentage of women has also increased. The number of polling stations nevertheless has also increased between 2018 and 2024. We've been joined by two important guests to talk about different perspectives of the elections, of the previous government, of the upcoming government, but the challenges that lie ahead, and the challenges are multifold. To discuss many of these aspects, my first guest on the right is Dr. Salma Malik. She's a senior analyst and of course regular on my show. Thank you very much, Dr. Salma, to have come all the way to the studios for this transmission. Our second guest is a very dear colleague, an eminent journalist who writes regularly and whose column I never forget to read, because it gives me an opening and insight into various aspects of national and international politics. Farrukh Pitafi, welcome to my transmission.
Thank you.
Let's begin with you, Dr. Salma Malik. Dr. Salma Malik, I'll begin. All right, we also have, my producer just told me, we have a third guest who's on, and I forgot to mention her. Lubna Jerar Naqvi joins us from Karachi. She's an eminent journalist, and we managed to talk to her a couple of days back, but didn't get to have a complete discussion because of the lack of time. So Lubna Jerar Naqvi Sahaba, thank you very much to have joined us all the way from Karachi. Let's begin with Dr. Salma Malik. Dr. Salma, the fact is that we talk foreign affairs, international relations, and the perspectives and the challenges that Pakistan has. Now that we are going through an election process today, whichever government comes into place will have a lot of challenges. For example, the borders, we have closed all the borders to avoid any untoward incident from happening in Pakistan, and other measures have also been taken in that regard. When you look at what Pakistan has gone through in the last couple of months, what will be the utmost priority as far as our international relations, our regional relations are concerned for the government that comes into power?
Thank you so much, Omar. Today is a very fascinating day. Many of us went to poll in the morning. Some of us stayed queued up for hours. There was a lot of thrill and fascination, so it's
especially for the first timers
and for the first timers. Despite all those reminders that people had been given and the trainings that this is how you have to cast a vote, still everyone was asking so that their vote doesn't get wasted. So that's pretty nice. When we look at a very different aspect, what will our vote mean for us in the future world order? Primarily, it's fascinating to see my participation in that. But still, few of the challenges that you have also mentioned, the border security. And with that, the border security, we are not only talking about our eastern borders, we are talking about our western borders, and a double take on the western borders, since one of the neighbors had this hyper adventurous streak, and they ended up launching missile attacks on this side. But the terrorism issue, cross border movement of individuals, that is something very important. But once there is a regular government in picture, they have all of these things to look at from a very solid front and not from an interim perspective, not firefighting, but having a policy to monitor this. So I really feel that in the coming months we are going to have a re-evaluation of how our strategic force posturing is, whether we should only, and now not exactly, but should our fear factor or our threat perception should only be eastwards, or now we have to look at the twinning challenge coming from the western border as well. So that is something very important. The CPEC has to revive and revive in big time. The last few months, the type of attacks that have taken place, the restiveness in Balochistan, means that those who are watching Pakistan, our adversaries, they mean it and they want CPEC not to get revived. And they know that once there is an established government in office, they are going to work double time on CPEC and try and make up for the lost time. So that factor is there. Pakistan, all the regimes in the past have been mentioning about one aspect, and that is that Pakistan wants to have a very even-handed policy with greater powers. So whether it be the US, China, which is our very, very dear friend, or it is Russian Federation, it has been problematic, yet the fact is that we want to have equal opportunities that we can enjoy from different frontiers. So how do we look into this? And fascinatingly, this also happens to be a year when we have the Indian elections, and we also happen to have the US elections. So we need to see how in the coming months, 10 months from now or 11 months from now, how the US security posturing evaluates developments in South Asia, and also particularly for us in Pakistan. So there are a lot of things that we need to monitor and devise a policy that fulfills all of these things, plus the fact that the Arab world, Palestinian issue is a major preoccupation for everyone, and all governments, interim, previous one, before that, and all of them, there is unanimity in our opinion when it comes to Palestine. And I think once the government is in office, they are well established, people would expect that there is more vocalness and there is more veracity in our feeling and sentiment towards Palestine, and not what you can expect being slightly ad hocish or having a muted voice on that account.
All right, Farrukh, you know, I have seen this statement in so many films, or read it many times. With great power comes great responsibility. When it comes to the manifestos of the different political parties that they posted online, or when, if you have discussed it in your shows many a times as well, how much prominence has the foreign affairs or the relations with other countries been part of those manifestos? And again, I'd like to ask the same thing. What are the basic challenges that lie ahead for the government that will come into power in the next couple of days?
Thank you very much, first of all, for your very kind introduction at the start, and then this question as well. To be honest, the biggest challenge that is going to come, Omar, is you know, the economy of the country, right? Whosoever actually is elected to the public office this time is going to immediately consider going back to IMF and find another program there. Given our debt to GDP ratio, that becomes a challenge. So that will be a humongous task, righting the ship of economy. The current government, the caretaker government, has actually given some important pointers as to what can be done to improve economy. We have to see whether the next government, especially working in tandem with SIFC, can do that as well. Now, you then of course terrorism is a big challenge.
Of course.
And apart from that, polarization within the society is something that one needs to worry about, because it seems that we are living in a post-truth society. So everybody is not merely entitled to their own opinions, but they are entitled to their own facts. The same thing happens Omar but thinks something else of it, and I observe it in a different way, right? So that actually creates a lot of problem also. You asked about foreign policy and
Challenges.
its place in our manifestos, right? With due respect, while one political party actually kept on linking their own plight with foreign policy, and that we saw repeatedly, the fact is that most of the political parties are more or less on the same page as to how to actually tackle various foreign policy challenges. But having said that, right now it seems that when you talk about manifestos, whichever manifesto is more detailed will focus more on foreign policy, right? For example, PTI kept on talking about Russia. But then we saw People's Party and PMLN's manifesto. They say the same thing about Russia, right? Similarly, India. Similarly, the Arab countries. Similarly, the US. So, in one way or the other, they are agreeing to the fact that Pakistan has less options when it comes to foreign policy, and we need to create more options. So, we'll have to wait and see how that next government actually manages to do that.
All right, wonderful. Lubna, thank you very much to have joined us. We had a wonderful conversation the last time, and now I hope we're going to have a more detailed conversation during the course of these 2 hours. Lubna, how is the environment as far as Karachi is concerned? Did you go vote? And if so, what is the turnout that you have seen? How do you see the general arrangement of the whole system, of the whole electoral system? That was it well managed? How did the ECP, as detailed in the last couple of days during our shows, manifested itself during the polling day, at least till now? We still have around a couple of minutes before polling ends.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I've been out on the streets since morning, and I've seen pockets of enthusiastic crowds in many of the areas of Karachi. But some of the places where I would have expected more people to be, I didn't see a lot of people at the polling stations. Now, I think it was early for Karachi, and we usually do, get up later than the rest of the country. Some of the places that I visited just before coming back for this, the crowds were increasing, and the one thing that I really liked and I appreciated were there were a lot of women there. Older women were out for their votes, standing in long lines. The only thing that I didn't like at one place where I observed was that the older women and some of the women were being escorted by the younger, some son or somebody, 14 or 15 years old. They were going into the booths with them, and I did object to that, but nobody was taking action for that. But I do think that the Josh that we saw in the previous ones, it's not there in Karachi, but then that's what Karachi, Pakistan is. We have different scenarios every time. As far as the Election Commission is, there's a lot of. I didn't see any problems at the police stations. The staff was polite, and even the security personnel were very nice, which is a very good thing to see. So far, I think we've only heard of a few incidents. I think just one incident in Balochistan, and we've just heard one. I was just reading of something. There's some rigging allegations in Balochistan as well. That is something that I really am very concerned about, because of course we'll be over the counting and everything, and then we'll have a new government. But what I hope from the new government is that let the concerned authorities look after these rigging incidents and not let it affect their tenure in power, because every time we see a new government, they usually take most of their time talking about the rigging, which is important, but should be not the focal point at this point when your country needs you focused on other very important issues. It's only like maybe 33 minutes left, and hopefully people will be coming into there to vote. But there are some places where the staff didn't get the equipment, or they didn't get their stuff on time, and people were very angry with them. I talked to a few people, and I was trying to tell them that these people are just employed here. They're not responsible. Don't take your anger out on them. And I think if they've started their polling an hour or 2 hours later, they should be given a little more time in those
All
polling
right.
stations.
But I think, the time is going to end as far as the polling is concerned, and that is going to be, as you said, now in around 32 minutes time at 5 p.m. Dr. Salma, there's something that Lubna pointed towards, and I'll kind of extend that towards you. Continuity, is something that is extremely important. She said, whichever government comes, they try to undo what has been done by the previous government. But under the current circumstances, as Farrukh also pointed out, economy is one of the major challenges we have, and whichever government comes needs to go to the IMF very quickly to, to discuss the upcoming, deal or contract with the IMF that is going to be a long term this time. How important is for any upcoming government that comes after these elections to continue the major policies that have been implemented by the caretaker government and by the government before that?
I think one cannot stress on this point less, in a sense that, or more, we are in a dire economic situation, and unless and until we have a continuity in policy which works with sustainability, we'll keep on going back to the various props that we have. And at the end of the day, we have to deal with this problem. So we can't have this compound economic crisis that keeps on going. We get these temporary reliefs, and then the brunt of all of that falls on the people. And then again, you go another step. You do the same exercise again, and it keeps working that way. So economy is something so important for us that I think even if we have to virtually shut doors and decide that it's an economic crisis and we have to deal with it as of yesterday, declare an economic emergency, it wouldn't be something that
it will be
that should be
completely, something that needs to be done. This is the need of the hour.
It is the need of the hour, and see, it is affecting the country at various levels. It is affecting me as an individual.
Of course.
It is affecting the institutions. It is affecting the defense, the security of the country, internal security as well as external security. And all of this compounds into a major issue for us. So whenever a lot of people have said this, that Pakistan is going geo-economic rather than geostrategic or geopolitical, the fact is that even if you're going geo-economic, you're again talking about the strategic threshold which gets challenged when you have poor economy. Your adversaries start looking at you from a very menacing outlook, and they feel that you are not strong enough to defend yourself. And that is why Pakistan has also not had, because I'm diverting your question into my domain, that if we really want to look at our strong defense, the main linchpin is economy. If we want to have strong education, it is economy. We want to have people who are well fed, it is economy. So we really have to work at that, and any government that gets voted in, they know that it's their priority and they have to work on it. They may have a different approach towards dealing with that problem, but the priority can be nonetheless the most primary.
I think we need to prioritize certain things, and these are very important. Before we go to Farrukh, I've been told that we've been joined by our reporter Musharraf Zahoor, who is going to give us some updates as far as the polling situation today is concerned. Musharraf, yes, what kind of details can you give us as far as polling that is happening today is concerned?
Right now we are standing on the juncture of Islamabad Capital Territory and district Haripur. On my right side there is NF47 of Islamabad constituency, and on my left side there is NA18 and PK47 of Haripur district, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. We will take you to the polling stations located both in NA47 and NA18 and PK47 simultaneously. Right now we are in Kotla village and in front of school which has been made polling station, and you can see that there are large number of people, voters who have gathered here. Most of them have voted, cast their vote, and this is NA18 Haripur of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, while it is also PK47. As far as details of the candidates are concerned, for NA18, Babar Nawaz Khan of PMLN, Sayyid Ali Zawar Hussain of PPP, Omar Ayub backed by PTI, and Ghazan Iqbal Khan of Jamaat-e-Islami are contesting on National Assembly seat. While on PK47, there are about 10 candidates, and the prominent one among them are Arshad Ayub Khan, Iftikhar Ahmed, and PMLN supported Raja Faiz Zaman. Arshad Ayub Khan, who is also cousin of former Federal Minister Umar Ayub Khan, he is backed by PTI. Awami National Party's Iram Fatima is also contesting from this constituency. It is very interesting. As far as this particular Union Council where we are standing right now is concerned, there are about 1,402 total registered vote in this village, and among us them 750 are male registered voters, while 652 votes are female registered voters.
Election is very fair and fair production, and staff is very cooperative person, and people are getting polls their votes in their respective candidates. I am fully satisfied. The staff was reached at Kotla at 8 p.m. last night, and they at 7 o'clock morning they reached the polling station, and the arrangement they made of polling station voters, and they are also facilitate to the public. Only one person deputed, but the people are the cooperative, and they are nothing any misbehavior.
The best arrangement is you have, and everybody is voting comfortably and free and fair. Maximum people have come here and they voted for their members openly and fairly.
We are in front of Islamabad Model School, which is located in UC1 NA47. You can see women polling booths and men polling booths have been set up. In NA47, there are about 35 contestants. Among them, the prominent one are Shoaib Shaheen, which is backed by PTI, and Mustafa Nawaz Khokhar, who is an independent candidate, while Tariq Fazal Chaudhry, who is PMLN candidate, while Sayyid Sabte Hassan Bukhari of Pakistan People's Party are contesting from NA47. This is the first UC of Islamabad.
That was Musharraf Zahoor, our correspondent, giving us more details as far as the polling station NA47 is concerned. And of course, we will keep on updating you as and when we get our reporters online from different quarters of Pakistan. We've been doing that all day long. We will go back to our panel. Farrukh, Dr. Salma was talking about the different challenges, what lies ahead and what needs to be done, and the continuity of policies. Yeah. What take do you have, because you've been observing and writing about politics for a very, very long time. Do you feel, yes, how important is the continuity of policies, because we have unfortunately not seen that happen with previous governments.
Right. I'm glad that you actually brought up my experience regarding covering these issues as well, because back in 1990s, what used to happen, Omar, that one government actually starts a project, the other one actually totally scraps it, right? That means usually our governments actually stay in power, and or at least back then, or for 2 years or 3 years. So that is enough time to spend a lot of resources on one project, which then is going to be scuttled. So that unfortunately was the state of affairs. Fortunately, we saw that thing kept on abating. One great example was Benazir Income Support Program, when it came, everybody said that this program is not going to take off. PMLN was coming to power, and many people said that they are going to just replace it with something better. But then they also actually carried it forward. And eventually, when PTI came, they might have actually appropriated it to actually launch their SARS program, but it was one thing that continued, right? Regarding continuity, one question that I asked former Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on the last day when he was about to leave, and I asked, how are you going to ensure if you have these policies and tomorrow, day after tomorrow, you're going to come back to power? How will you ensure that the caretaker takes care of it? Then he pointed to SIFC again. Because of SIFC, there is stability.
All right.
All three tiers of government working together, civil military working together. So in coming days also, all those priorities, I think, are going to actually be filtered through SIFC, and then they are going to be implemented.
All right. Lubna, coming to you, as far as the SIFC is concerned, how important do you feel its role is going to be working with the government that is going to come into power now post the elections?
Well, I think the governments that come into power need all the help they can get. I was just looking at a few things, and I was thinking that the interim government, or maybe the one before that, we have improved, as in we were less corrupt now, according to the Transparency International's CPI. So if we do continue and focus and get all the help that we can get, I think that would be a great takeoff for this government. As we keep saying, economy is the best, is the most important thing to focus on. The other thing that I just want to deviate from is the manifestos that we were talking about. If you look at them, they promise the sky, the moon, and stars and everything. They're very well-written documents. They're all talking about economy. They're touching all the key points that would make the voter get out there, and if they've read the manifesto, that is, and focus on who they should be voting in to take care of the country. That's going to be a very difficult thing to get, to try to start new projects or start new plans. I think as the benefit income support program that we saw that has been evolved and taken over by the other governments, we should be focusing on things that have already been, that have been successes, and not try to reinvent the very wheel. And these manifestos, I'm deviating from what you're asking, because I think these are the promises that they have made to me as a voter. And of course, the governments should be answerable to me as a voter. So I want to see them using any and every any support or advice and anything that they can get from any quarters to make this country keep moving forward. And I'm not.
That is true, but there's one thing that comes out of your conversation with me, and I'll point it to my two guests here as well, and then I'll come to you. Dr. Salma, in the manifestos and in the speeches, all the political parties say that we will do this and that in different spheres, but there's no mention of how they will do it. The mechanism of action of how they are going to actually implement all those promises that are going to be made. Shouldn't that also be a priority, to let the public know how they will implement all the decisions that they will take or they have promised in their manifestos?
That's a very important thing to say, because I think so far the voters, those getting voted in, they have taken this process a little for granted. For certain few, it's a birthright. I belong to the landed gentry. I belong to some voter royalty, and I am going to get my hereditary vote, whether I perform or not. So that has been the usual norm here. Unless and until there is an audit and accountability from the voters, when I go back to my constituency and I don't deliver, and people then ask me, instead of listening to my sermons without any reservations, and cheering for me and supporting me and coming in a herd mentality to these big jalsas, this will continue. So as a voter, I think I need to be a bit more up in the game and ask them, what have you given me in the last 1, 2, 3, 4 elections that you have contested and not delivered? And so long as this continues, this practice will be there. So one aspect that. Secondly, I think again there should be more public debate when the manifestos are being created. And those manifestos should have the implementables and how do you implement them. So
Keyword.
that factor is there, right? So unless we develop a culture of electioneering and voting and how do these things really work, and I think a lot of what I'm saying is ideal speak. People all the time bicker about it. Once the dreams are not realized, they say, oh, we gave you so much of confidence and you did not perform well for me. And the next time when I go there and I bring a sob story and I say, ABC did not let me work, so I haven't been able to work, but now I'm going to deliver. They again get hooked by this, and they do. So
the basic thing is that you need to concretize your statements by thorough actions. Farrukh, what's your take on that?
Regarding what?
Regarding the implementation, regarding the implementables, regarding
because you actually covered a lot of
yes.
ground, I wanted to know which area you want to target. Look, the first accomplishment of people like you and I, people who actually believe in printed word and its sanctity, is that finally we have started seeing some manifestos which are not 4 pages, right? Usually what happens is that our pundits sit on television and they actually shoot it down. There's a manifesto, nobody reads manifestos, nobody believes in it. But at least you need to know what is your paradigm, right? What paradigm are you offering? What exactly are your promises? So that is the most consolidated way of offering those promises to the people. Now your question, how to do it? I think that also distilled this time. For example, People's Party's leader, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, actually in a speech ended up talking about 300 units free for the poor, for the people. And everybody immediately started asking how, right? And then you see that they actually maneuvered their way out of this. In manifesto, they talk about what? Solar energy, right? So at least there is some mechanism of accountability that is developing. The only problem is that most of our media analysts or anchors, you know, they keep on and they end up talking about candidates and power politics rather than ideas. And this is where you and I have to actually keep on struggling.
Exactly.
That people have to actually write down the promises and then ask them also.
what about those? What about A, B, C, D as far as your manifesto is
and
concerned?
one great thing that PTI actually brought in when it actually offered its manifesto, whether they implemented or not, immediately, because their own followers believed in them, they started these clocks to check whether they have delivered or not, although they failed. But those promises, holding anybody accountable for those promises is very important. But who is going to do it? Tell me, Omar, how many news channels do we have in this country?
Oh,
around
plethora.
60,
Yes.
right? And yet, most of them are producing the same white noise. They are not even focusing on the books or the messages that are there. Somebody has to go through it and then ask them how. Now, regarding PMLN's manifesto, I saw emphasis on revenue generation, and I thought that they had a coherent plan because they have experience of that, right? The other two parties were focusing more on spending. People's Party and PTI both have one overlap in the Venn diagram, and that is focusing on social sector. And both have been great, by the way, right? But the problem is, the difference is PTI actually believes in the capitalism model. That's why you had health card, which was actually, you outsource the idea of giving health care to the private sector. People's Party believes in empowering the existing infrastructure, whatever it might be there. But everyone who's talking about expenditure first has to tell you how are they going to get money. Another example, People's Party's leader actually talks about, you know, removing 22 ministries and then getting 300 billion rupees free from the public, federal government's expenditure. And then we had PMLN's representative in the program. He says that the entire size of federal pie is 850 billion. So how do you propose only slashing 22 ministries will do that, right? So these are good questions. Keep on asking. If we are doing our job, then people will be empowered, educated as well. The biggest problem right now is that our electoral system, the way we vote in the parliamentary system, is more less of a democratic system, more of a republican system, where you don't make policy, you select somebody or elect somebody who is going to actually vote again to select somebody on your behalf as a prime minister or chief minister. The third tier is defunct. That is the local government, where you actually talk about service delivery. The day you start doing that, you focus on that as well. Your democracy will be wholesome, and your local system will not be in shambles like it is right now.
You talk of three things that I'm going to refer to Lubna. Lubna, Jerar, three things that I'd like to point towards, and of course we'll continue that after this hour ends. The paradigm shift, how important is it as far as the implementables are concerned, implementation of the manifestos is concerned, whether it be in the economy or in the foreign policy or in local politics or in strengthening the government. Secondly, how important is also to hold any future government that comes or the political parties accountable for these very promises that they've made. Thirdly, how important is also to strengthen the local system once this government comes into power.
Well, I think that with the new government, the focuses should be the same. I mean, we haven't had any changes in our problems. Nothing has changed over the past 30 years or since I've started voting. We're always there with the same problems, the same promises. So I think the government should start actually start showing some results, because this new generation of voters that has come in, it's very vocal and it asks a lot of questions. You don't need anybody else to monitor the government, which we do need to have a separate monitoring and account audit system. But the voter, the younger voter, is not like, I think, their predecessors. Like they have social media. They're asking, constantly keeping you or the government on their toes. So I think it's very important to keep that into view. And I think that some of the parties, I think PTI has understood that to some extent. It may have not really helped to translate it into other political, because of its lack of experience, I guess. But this voter is very vocal, and it's very it's keeping an eye on what's going on. It has its documentations, it has its figures to some extent ready. They may not be right sometimes. There might be some emotional data out there that they're using, but they have that power and the voice. They found the voice in a way. I think the voter should have known what their party was offering, so they could have chosen somebody else. But the fact is that in Pakistan and I think in this region, we're traditional voters, and it's very hard to break away from the traditional political party that your families maybe voting for decades. But now the new generation has broken that to some extent, but still, when they're following a political party, it's sometimes, I think, only for the leader. It's not the party per se. You remove the leader, there's no party. It's like a headless group of people. So that's something that I think that the voter needs to understand, that the manifesto is your party and not only the leader. So you need to look at every aspect of that manifesto and hold the required people there to be accountable to them. And the local infrastructure needs a lot of work, and you can't fool this group of new voters, because they can see what's going on. I've talked to some people who were diehard voters of one particular party, and now they've completely taken a 360 view, because they ask me, they're like young voters, and this third or fourth time that they're voting, and they were asking, what have they given us? What has my traditional party given me? Why should I vote for them? Now look at this. I mean, they have so many questions that are so relevant, that make you understand that this voter is not going to sit there and allow their parties or the governments to function, which is has a negative aspect to it as well, because then there's so much, there's so much noise about other things that it's very, I think, difficult for the government to focus. They're always fending off these allegations. It's always this. I think it's all fluff that doesn't need to be discussed. We need to focus on better things, and the media really has to play a very, very serious and important role, because if we're discussing non-issues, that's what is going to be the focus of everything. And I think that noise creates a lot of diversions from what the actual performance is. Social media is one tool that is quite effective, and I think the new government should be aware of that and really.
All right. Lubna, we are a bit short of time, but I understand that you are going to be with us for the next hour as well. So we'll be seeing you in a few minutes' time. Thank you very much for this hour, and of course we'll continue our discussion with you in the next hour between 5 and 6 as well. Salma, thank you very much to have joined us. You've come all the way to be in the studios, and I really appreciate that, because I thought that somebody with the thorough knowledge on regional international affairs like yourself needed to be here to understand or to give an idea as far as where we are going and what needs to be done by the government. That comes into place today when the polls are happening, and the expectation is sky high as to the delivery, as to all the deliverables that the different governments or the political parties have put forward and how they need to implement that in their
Thanks for making me part of this
election the pleasure was all mine. Farrukh Pitafi, you're going to stay with us for the next hour as well. So we are going to discuss a lot of interesting issues about the media, the role of the media between 5 and 6, and other issues. And of course, now that, ladies and gentlemen, before we go, of course, we have to tell you that at 5 o'clock the polling is going to end, which means like in this 6 minutes time, the polling is going to end. And then comes the part that we are all looking forward to: who gets which seat, how many votes have been put in different constituencies across Pakistan, and what has been the percentage of those. We'll be back after the news break at 5 with more on that and much more regarding the elections 2024. Stay tuned, and we'll see you in a bit. Allah Hafiz.